Carolyn Holzman, and this is Confessions of an SEO. If you're new to Confessions, our time together every week is about 15 minutes, give or take. In this short form podcast, this is where I share from my SEO testing, field data observations, and there is no shortage of unsolicited thoughts about our industry. So if you're ready, here we go. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 1 of Confessions, and thank you for humoring me with an outlet to humanize our industry so businesses can understand us a little more, as well as the opportunity to keep a contemporaneous record of the upheaval in our industry now that we've moved from a search model into a less clicky answer model. Definitely did not see this as a possibility when this got started in January of 2021, and yet here we are. So this year I thought I might shift some of the topics more and take a sort of hybrid approach between search and AI, and let's just see how far we get. Today, I thought I'd share my experience this past week using Vizzex, which I'm using now to connect my expertise in both search and the LLM, or what I refer to as the large language models. Now, I don't just do that. That's what they're called. And I prefer using that description instead of the phrase AI or artificial intelligence. Large language models as a concept kind of forces my mind to remember that none of this, what we get, is outside of us. These models are trained on our content. I'll give you an example of what I mean before I get into what happened this week. You know how we all Google ourselves by our names, right? Well, now we have an opportunity to query ourselves in whatever LLM we use. So just for fun, I asked Gemini about myself and what I was known for. And it returned a pretty accurate interpretation of the scope of what I published for my work. And here's the kicker. It mentioned Vizzex. Now, I haven't written about Vizzex except in the title of last episode of Season 5. And but the response from Gemini didn't just mention Vizzex on its own. It managed to connect Vizzex, the plugin, which is created by Kim Albee and being brought to market by both of us. Gemini connected Vizzex in a citation to my helpful content analysis paper and described it as a helpful content measurement tool. All of that was in the title of last week's episode. Pretty neat trick. And it also provides an interesting and new justification for taking the time to create and maintain a podcast. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Now, artificial intelligence is us. It's a voracious reader and possibly even a podcast listener, connecting the dots, eating what we feed it, but not for feeding's sake. We want it to correctly connect the dots about us, about our business, our services, and ultimately, at the base of it, our expertise. So back again on this week, I have a confession to make first. For the last 4 or 5 years, even though I am a dedicated WordPress user, I have sworn off the page and post differentiations. I went for a flatter architecture, meaning every piece of content, whether it was a page or a post, was domain.com/name of the page /. Now, in swearing off the post as a different format, when you do that, you also toss WordPress categories and tags that are part of that post architecture. You're kind of like, if you don't pay attention to them or don't use them, you're just kind of tossing them off the cliff like an old toaster. Now, historically, to my experience, category and tag pages were pains in the neck in search. These would be, separate pages that just had tag and then would have links from the posts, that were tagged with that particular category or tag. Now, the problem was their presence in the search results completely put the actual content pages that were within that category, it kind of had them underwater in the search results. And it made sense why that's the way that happened. Like, for instance, if you have 10 pieces of content in one category, and let's say your writing has already semantic relationship to the category, right? So now you have 10 links right out of the gate that are linking into this category page, and you have powered up the category page with all these relevant links. It would be hard for that category page not to do what it did. But the problem of a category page is they really aren't designed to convert. They just kind of like pages and, kind of like a weird RSS feed. They are powerful, obviously, and they're also uncontrollable at the same time as a marketer. You can't guide somebody through sort of a buying cycle unless they just happen to like clicking on these what appear to be just different pieces of content. And I will say the only time I saw a thing that could convert was one client who worked with universities and colleges, and they generated sites, that could manage student enrollment, and they did that on subdomains. And there was one common page on all of those subdomains that lived on their main domain. And so that page was effectively kind of juiced up from hundreds of relevant backlinks, but it was set to no index. And I could not get anyone to explain to me why. On that page, however, was an excellent description of their software, and it would have only taken one link from that page and point it directly to their related service page. I mean, I had dreams about doing this before they said no. Anyway, back to my confession. The way Vizzex works at the moment is to focus on those posts, at least in WordPress for now. There's going to be more content management systems available, but this is how it is right now. Now I have a site, and this is part of my confession, where I had very little post content. And what I had, it was tagged within one category. Now I'm facing the consequences of my past choices. And thankfully, I don't have like a huge volume of posts. And I can see that content, when you organize it as posts, that's how you come up with the hub and spoke. And so I haven't been a fan of the hub and spoke for a while because there was a point where it didn't work. And it certainly is challenging to not sort of cover over, too much topic overlap. So, but anyway, the concept is one strong piece of content supported by multiple related posts pointing to a link, by their links to that hub page. So here I am, and in the words of my grandfather, who was a carpenter, I'm having to remake my own damn chair. And I say, good, yay, right? So in the process, there's a way to run a baseline analysis across all posts. This is that horizontal content analysis process that I'm talking about. And it generates a written analysis along with very specific recommendations for interlinking and suggested semantic links to other pages. Now, it turns out for the piece of content I was working on, the analysis suggested not just one link to a particular page, but a second link to the same page, although with a different anchor text. It was also relevant to the target. Now, for those who aren't SEOs, reading this was like a road to Damascus moment. And apologies to those who didn't spend every summer in vacation Bible school, but it was that big of a moment for me. 2 links from one page to the same page? What devilment is this? And you have to remember, I come from the generation of SEOs where a backlink was a backlink. Backlink from a strong page was a strong backlink, but no topical relevance was required, at least now that I look back in hindsight, that we just made them. And even then, in those primitive times, we wouldn't have sent two links on the same page to the same page. So my reflexive mind was like, that's not right, that's bad. But lucky for me, I do have a good relationship with myself, so I began to question this, like, why did my first thought that came to mind, why was it that I thought this was bad? Nowadays, I mean, we have to revisit all our assumptions. So as I went through the basics, normally as SEOs, we looked at backlinks within a mathematical framework, a PageRank, because that's how Google told us that they calculated PageRank. And historically, Google would assign a PageRank score to a domain based on the quantity and quality of its backlinks. And they used to share that publicly. Now, they don't. Even though we have suspicions, they still use it on their end. They do hide it from us. But the way it worked was that with each outgoing link, a little bit of that domain power was mathematically transferred to the target of the link. You could consider that link equity. Okay, that's a good way to describe it. So sending two links from one page to the same page at best would have not changed the needle, or might have been a little extra leak of PageRank. Now, there was the anchor text question aspect to this. Now, why that was important, Google has said that it gives a first link priority to anchor text. So if you have more than one, it really only calculates that first one. And like I say, our classic understanding, obviously, is that Google uses that anchor text of the first link to the URL and may ignore additional anchor text variants for its ranking signals, okay? But we're in a different spot now. We're in an answer model. And when you have these large language models, both analyzing our content for the purpose of citing us instead of only ranking us, that's something important that's new, okay? So for LLM style type retrieval, two links that are placed in different sections of, let's say, of a piece of content with different but related anchors, that kind of creates a sort of multiple semantic edges, I guess, between those two sections. And it reinforces that page two, the one that you're linking to twice, is central to both subtopics. So at these crossroads here, we face a new choice. For LLM systems that actually follow links, some do, two highly relevant anchors to the same page could be seen as an advantage and in a very specific way, because by doing so, those two links together strengthen the semantic graph within your content more than what we traditionally have thought of as the SEO graph on that. So we have an expanded field of optimization. Now, some might say, this is just an SEO technique, dolled up, and, in a different way. But I believe it's more clearly a form of optimization. But its purpose is different. It's to connect the dots of expertise. And given that we're no longer in a click economy when it comes to gauging performance, I have to say this is very curious to me, because I'm going to test to see if, in addition to potentially enhancing the semantic graph, can I find in the search performance data something that may or may not reflect as a search benefit as well. Now, I'm going to keep you posted. If you'd like to get your hands on the only horizontal content analysis tool out there for WordPress, you can join the beta. Now, the beta provides you with a 90-day free trial, and there will be more content management systems added as we go. But you can go to Vizzex.ai, and that's spelled Vizzex.ai. I'll also put that in the description. But apply to be in the beta. There's going to be first access to new features. There'll be short AMAs, Ask Me Anything, to help get everyone started. And our commitment is to helping you succeed with your expertise getting the attention it deserves. Now, that's it for me this week. I want to thank you for being a listener. Also, I'd like to thank Vizzex as a sponsor of Confessions. And also check out Indexilla, which is my indexing tool and now exclusive provider of my crawl or no crawl indexation reports. You can find it at indexilla.io because now more than ever, AI makes the indexation of your content into Google and Bing essential. Don't leave it to chance. Well, that's it for me this week. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the SERPs.